Does cryptocurrency finally offer the pathway to wealth for Black people that we've been talking about for years and years? Is Bitcoin the new detox tea of the investment world? Scammers beware. And finally, does this technologically driven currency and market offer Black investors for the first time an escape from the racism and the exclusiveness that's plagued Wall Street and traditional investing? Well, we're talking about it after the break. Hey, brokers, I'm Amber.
And I'm Erika.
And on this payday, y'all, you're getting your check in Bitcoin, honey.
Oh, Lord,
ain't no direct deposit today.
Oh, Lord. Everybody's going to walk away. You get a crypto wallet. You get a crypto wallet.
You. And so, y'all, today we are talking about cryptocurrency. Finally, these streets have been talking and we are joining the conversation. It seems like almost overnight, Bitcoin, blockchain, and all of the other forms of cryptocurrency burst onto the scene, promising quick wealth, an opportunity to leverage markets that we were never a part of. But y'all, is it really all that it's cracked up to be? You know, of course, there's the rise of the gurus, the influencers, and the experts promising to teach you how to get rich quick in this land of cryptocurrency. So we are getting the 411 today. Should you abandon your 401k and get on the crypto train to freedom, or stay where you are? So we're going to let y'all know the ins and outs, because I don't know. So I'm learning today. And so we're going to figure it out. And we got an expert here to help us do it.
So Amber, before we talk to and I consider him to be a friend to the show, but before we talk to our guest for today, what have you been up to, Amber? You know, what's been making you happy? What's been making you sad? What have you been thinking about?
So I'll do one of each. What's driving me crazy is this whole conversation around a Supreme Court nominee. I mean, God forbid Joe Biden opened the mouth that God gave him to say that he is going to appoint a Black woman to the Supreme Court. Because, you know, obviously that must mean that she is unqualified, attitudinal, and just there to take up space, right? You know, so it has just really been driving me crazy. And it's also a reminder to me why I never want to be a judge. I never want to.
Amber, you know in your heart you want to be a judge. But let me say, that's not the part about this whole thing that I'm pissed off about. I'm pissed off about the fact that that's the one thing that you're so concerned about doing, Joe Biden. Out of all the things that we didn't talk about, that's the most important topic on your agenda to get to? No, sir. We have much more pressing issues.
I agree with you, but I also think it's so non-remarkable. Like the fact that this man said he's going to appoint a Black woman to the court and we got all of this out of that. It's like, it ain't even nothing to talk about. Like the fact that people have a hard time even just letting it slide that there are Black women qualified to sit on the highest court in this nation is crazy to me. It's crazy to me. So I agree with you completely. And then I also have a praise report, y'all.
Oh, goodness. Here we go. What is it?
My wig cleared custom, so I'm going to be curly.
Oh, Lord. The supply chain is working in your favor.
Baby, I got that notice, you know, that my stuff had been transferred to FedEx. So I'm going to be wet and wavy for Valentine's. Thank you,
I love
Jesus.
it. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm real happy.
Hopefully we'll be getting an episode in soon, Amber, so we can actually see what's going on with the new wig. Yes. But I'm excited. I know Wet and Wavy. I feel like that's one of your faves. So
Wet and Wavy is like, you know, it's the unhealthy man that you know cheating on you, because you know Wet and Wavy is real temperamental. But I can't quit him. I can't quit it. I love my Wet and Wavy bundles. I love it.
It's all about what the D do. But anyway, Amber. So I know you were about to ask me.
You don't never give me a chance. You don't never give me a chance, but that's okay, sis. Go ahead and tell the people what you're doing. Okay. What's going on in your life?
So, y'all, I do my grocery pickup from Kroger. Let me say that. And I try to treat myself. You know, the people say treat yourself. So I get myself a dozen roses from Kroger, my grocery pickup. And usually they cost $10 a dozen. Okay, $10. So I'm like, I'm worth $10 a week. You know, this is good. Amen. Girl, I went to buy the roses this week. They're $22. The inflation then caught up to my roses. $22, Amber. So anyway, now that mean ain't no more flowers for me. So I'm sad
Girl,
about that. I'm
I
sad
need
about
to
that.
start selling flowers. Hell, $22 for a dozen of flowers. Ooh,
Well,
I'm in the
that's
wrong
cheap.
business.
That's still reasonably priced, but not from Kroger. But anyway, so I'm mad about that. And just because you always showing me up, usually you come in here talking about some book you read or read, and so I was like, well, let me tell the people what I'm reading too. Okay.
Tell them, baby, tell them.
So I started reading For My People, Black Theology and the Black Church by James Cone. So I'm excited about that one. I'm excited about learning more about Black Jesus and, making sure white Jesus gets kicked to the side. But anyway.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So Amber, today with us, we have a friend to Brokish, Dr. Jared Ball, who now, because I feel like he's my friend, I just call him Jared. Y'all can't call him Jared though, because he's not your friend. But Amber and I can call him Jared because he's our friend. And he's coming here to talk to us about cryptocurrency. And Jared has been in these Twitter and YouTube streets fighting the good fight. So he will talk more about that, certainly. You can catch some other videos and things that he's done on cryptocurrency. But he is a father and a husband. He is also a professor of communications and Africana studies at Morgan State University in Baltimore, and is the founder, curator of imixwhatilike.org, which is a multimedia hub of emancipatory journalism and revolutionary beat reporting. He is also the author of The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. And he's the man that introduced us to the Black Power media folks. So that is our friend, Dr. Jared. Jared, welcome back to Brokish.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And Amber, congratulations on the customs clearing. That's very important.
Thank you. God is good. God is good.
God is good.
Yes.
And that's how you know, because you cleared customs. Yes. You got your way through customs.
Yes. Yes.
God shows up in all, ways big and small. So the thing.
Right.
But y'all, today we're doing something a little bit different. So Amber and I wanted to start this thing, Jared, called Brokish University. And so you're actually our first professor on Brokish University. I don't even know if you knew this.
Oh, I didn't. But that's an honor.
Yeah. With Brokish University, we're going to talk about some topics that may be financial in nature, maybe not. And we just want to give folks an opportunity to learn more about those topics. And so thank you for coming here to help teach about cryptocurrency.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. One of the things that I hear from the brokers all the time is they're like, Erika, when are you and Amber going to do a show on cryptocurrency? When are y'all going to talk about cryptocurrency? And so frankly, we're doing this show because we're sick of y'all. Okay. So honestly, that's why we're all here, because we're sick of y'all asking the question. And so thank you for coming. But anyway, we know that cryptocurrency is not necessarily your area of scholarship, but we're glad you're still here to talk about it. So, Amber, why don't you kick Brokish University off with Dr. Ball and cryptocurrency?
So, I'm wearing my Hillman sweatshirt today because, Brokish University is accredited from the same place as Hillman College. So, right. I just got to represent for, academia. But for those of us who have, come into the university program on the struggle bus, we need our Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. So let's just kind of start in the beginning. What is cryptocurrency? What is it? Where is it? And how does one engage with it? Because, those of us in 101, we don't have all our credits. They not there yet. So we need the beginning. We need our.
So this would really be, and this would really be a 101 course and an introduction, because I've had to teach myself a lot, because where my areas of expertise are, as you noted, in that the cross between Africana and media studies, is I'm looking at these issues from those perspectives, and in many cases as issues of media and journalism, crises rather, I would even say, of media and journalism as opposed to economics. So some of the details require a lot of study and more than I've been able to do to this point. But the basics are that in 2009, a white paper was published by someone or a group of people, still undetermined at this point, Satoshi Nakamoto, the Bitcoin white paper, which I have read. It's about, I think, 9 pages. And the short of it is that it explains a technology, a peer-to-peer, anonymous, encrypted technology that allows people to exchange data without the interference or intermediation of banks, governments, etc. The paper lays out the technological details and the science behind it for those who would understand and need to see that. It's there. For people like me, it was just the importance is the general message, the claim of the peer-to-peer encrypted, uninterrupted exchange. And this idea that it's something that could change the world. And it was meant to be a response to the 2008 financial crisis in this country, and really around the world, actually, that was seen and blamed or said to be the result of central banks and governments who not only created the crisis, but then bailed out the ignoble actors in the crisis. So here comes this new technology with a Bitcoin currency attached to it that would allow for people to circumvent those horrible actors. So there are the two things. There is the Bitcoin, which is the currency part of it, or what is meant to be the currency exchange part of it. And then there's the underlying blockchain technology, which is more or less something that is created by computers who are engaged with one another, solving highly complicated algorithmic problems, and in the process of solving those problems, create this exchange, this interconnectedness of computers that allows for this peer-to-peer, again, encrypted. So the idea is that no one involved. So at the same time, you get the anonymity of not knowing who you are buying from or selling to, but you get the protection through, and this is where some of the details go beyond my expertise, but you get some protection from sort of double spending or people trading what they do not have or selling what they do not have. There are mechanisms within this blockchain that allow for this sort of verification and protection, allowing these exchanges to take place once everything is verified, again, by a decentralized anonymous network. And again, because they claim of decentralization and anonymity and the ability to circumvent banks and governments, the idea behind all of this and the philosophy being promoted behind all of this is that this is what will allow everyone to get off of, again, the surveillance of the state, the taxation by the intermediating banks through fees, et cetera. And then it will be something that in the grand scheme of things will be something that can replace existing currencies like the US dollar in particular, because of the fact that there is a very finite limit to Bitcoin, that is there only going to be 21 million coins that can be mined, that because of that finite number, unlike the US dollar, for instance, which now off the gold standard can be created out of nothing, nothing,
right,
printed and digitally or whatever. Now, Bitcoin apparently will solve that because of this finite number of Bitcoin, that problem goes away. You are forced into a situation where you cannot overspend, you cannot spend what you don't have, create something out of nothing, and you are sort of slowed down in your ability to dominate the world. So that's essentially what's happening. And then after Bitcoin, there are other currencies that come up. There's a lot more to be said about what kinds of currencies. Are they stable coins that are attached to whose value is attached to a existing fiat currency, or are they unstable coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the dominant players in the game, that are said to be, again, as I just try to describe, the answer, the solution to currency problems. And then what the idea is supposed to be, again, promoted in all of this, is that this will allow poor people and oppressed communities and countries even that are dominated by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and international capital and the big banks, all the way down to the poorest person abused by banking fees and transmission fees through, like Wells Fargo, et cetera, This will allow an ability for a great redistribution of wealth and a solving of all the world's problems, from inequality to poverty to war and so on and so forth. So that's
Jared, that's a whole lot. So I'm going to kind of key in on a couple of things that you said.
Sure.
So first of all, I think the notion of there being a thing that can flourish and that benefits the little person, the average everyday person, seems a little bit ridiculous. Like, I think America especially is very adept at understanding if there's a possibility for somebody to even kind of come up, let's figure out how to squash that from the beginning, right? Like, we're not going to even give you the ability to be able to do that. But you were talking about mining. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks don't have a lot of visibility to when you think about Bitcoin in particular, in terms of mining, the energy and the resources. So can you just take us through a little bit of what that looks like and some of the limitations that come about as a result of mining, and who owns the mines?
Well, essentially, the issue of ownership is something that's somewhat hard to identify because of the anonymity involved and the, one wallet. You might be able to identify a wallet because once everything's on this blockchain ledger, everything is open to whoever's on the blockchain. The only issue is, so for instance, you could see that a wallet is there, and you can see how much a wallet has in it, but you don't necessarily know whose wallet it is or how many people's money is represented in that wallet. So there are debates as to how people identify where the Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency is, where the wealth is, et cetera, and so forth. I have identified some academic papers that have come up with methods to account for this, to in some show that there is a great amount of concentration of wealth already occurring. But this is, again, something that's, again, up for debate. Now, within the mining world, it's the same kind of issue. So what it takes to mine is a great amount of computing technology and ability. You need, because what mining is essentially is computers, again, solving highly complicated mathematical problems that are, once solved, are rewarded with coins, in this case, Bitcoin. And to do that, you need more than just your laptop or desktop to really be serious about it. You need many, many computers operating 24 hours a day, using X amount of graphics cards, et cetera, and electricity and whatever, which is some of the criticism, to do the mining. And one of the papers that I read said already we're in a situation where just 50 individual mining operations have, I got the exact number, but it's something like, it's well over 50% of all of the mining that's going on. And that's largely because the individual who may even be able to dedicate one entire room of their home to all these computers and racks to do the mining still can't compete with the major, highly funded operations that are much like the servers situation with internet. These server farms are huge and involve, times millions of computers, and so which requires, a kind of investment in space and electricity bill payment operation that most people don't have. So, anyway, so the details, again, I don't have in front of me in terms of who has all the mining or where all the mining money is, but it is still being reported that for all that can be determined, it's still a largely consolidated effort. And one thing that I learned in the process of trying to teach myself about all of this is that what's interesting is that for and this is something I'm sure we can come back to, for Bitcoin to eventually reach the level that its supporters say it will reach and needs to reach for their investments to turn into tremendous amounts of wealth, the mining, even after all of the 21 million Bitcoin are mined, the people running those computers and the algorithm solving operations and the computers that create ultimately the blockchain itself, they have to still continue to operate. So at any point that people lose interest or ability or want to go somewhere else and stop doing all of this goes away. So that's one aspect of this that I don't see being fully understood, appreciated, or discussed, especially in all of the hyper promotion of the space. That it requires. Yeah, I mean, it would require, as one article I read said, sort of like the benevolent continued support of these largely anonymous computing miner folks to continue to generate the blockchain that allows all this exchange and coins to exist. So,
and oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Amber.
I was about to say, and I mean, I'm going to guess that in this market-driven force, that's a market-driven force by another name, I'm going to bet that we are not the people controlling the concentration of mining. And so it's just kind of interesting that the marketing machine of capitalism is sort of layered itself onto cryptocurrency, promoting sort of the same hollow type promises. You know, this is a world where your race doesn't matter, your gender doesn't matter, you know, you're completely anonymous. You know, it's bootstraps by another name, it seems, which, you know, now that you're explaining it that way, seems like that's why it's so ripe for sort of the black capitalist propaganda machine to sort of, you know, throw their detox tea away and jump on the, you know, the crypto train, you know? No,
you say that you raise a really important point that's exactly what's happening. And in fact, it has an even more, now that you're saying it that way, it makes me think of it even a different way. It has an even more pernicious element to it. Because when you're convincing or attempting to convince people that your race and gender and et cetera don't matter, you're not only lying or creating a myth about the situation that in the immediate moment, but you're making it more likely for those issues to be more dangerously impactful in the real world, because people are going to be either expecting that they don't exist or able to operate in a world where nobody thinks it exists and can get away with it more easily. And then because it also, of course, leaves out the fact that your race and class and gender and everything else play a big role into how you do enter the crypto space. Even if you do enter into it and become anonymous, how you are able to get there, that is, for instance, how much you have to invest, your ability to sustain the long-term need that would be involved in this investment to if it is going to become something at some point. So all of that has everything to do. So to say your race doesn't matter is you know, which is part of the mythology, misses everything, because it means everything in terms of how you get there and what that argument means for the real world if people are to accept it in any way. So yeah, I mean, anyway.
It makes me think about, like, you know, I don't know, New Jack City or something, you know, where you have all these women in the room packing up the dope, right? Like for somebody else that's behind the scenes that ends up making all the money, right? Yeah. And I can just, in my head, I feel like there are people who are just in rooms with all of these machines. And essentially we're the ground workers, the literal miners, but the people who own the mines are the ones who are, you know, making money from all this. And
so you again, so in one of my interviews with the sister Sebs Solomon, she makes this point, among many others, that I thought was really important, that relates to what you just said. So internationally, cryptocurrency is being encouraged in so-called, you know, developing world countries throughout Africa, Central and South America, with in part to get more. Not just to develop the blockchain and to encourage investment into one or another cryptocurrency, but that to get people taking low-level jobs, performing the mining technological work, but also in terms of data mining, that providing more of that data that can be used to do any number of other things, you know, surveillance, monitoring, whatever, that we don't know about, because they become the people who are inputting their own and other people's data and collecting data, you know, in all these operations. So she made the point that the colonial relationship is replicating even in this environment, where again, Black and brown people become that natural resource. And then financially, it's somewhat the same thing. This still, at the end of the day, from my point of view, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, is that this is still a speculative investment. If you have the money and have the ability to take a risk and invest in something as an individual, you might, in a short or whatever term, length of term period, you might be able to make some money. But the idea that this is something that everyone can do as a collective to have some sort of revolutionary change in relationship to the economy and to the country, that's where the mythology for me becomes a new level of problem, because we don't have people coming into particularly Black and brown communities saying, I don't even know, like invest in oil, and you can become rich like the white man. Invest in some other tech and you become rich like the white man. No, it's specific or playing out in a specific way to this crypto space. And that's why we've seen, even in the stuff you sent me in preparation for today, there's the reporting that Black people by a percentage are more involved in crypto than anybody else. I think 44% of Black investors are in crypto versus only 17% of white, something like that. And the point I've been trying to make around that is that, that's because it's been more heavily promoted to Black people as not just an investment, but a revolution. And to white people, it's more of a speculative investment. And to white people who have more money to invest and a broader portfolio in which to invest, of course, they're going to be less invested in crypto by percentage than Black communities. But at the same time, what is the level of that investment? When you look at all of the top investors that are known within the crypto space, all those billionaires, it's the same ones who were billionaires beforehand, like the Winklevoss twins and all of them.
Right.
Or it's the more newly rich who own all the exchanges, like Brian Armstrong at Coinbase, or the guy they describe as the Chinese Canadian, they call him YZ or something like that, who owns Binance, the biggest exchange in the world. He's now worth, they said, $96 billion. That's what's happening. And at the bottom of that are all of these retail investors who are Black and brown, putting in their few pennies, bolstering the value of the stock of Bitcoin, because the value of stock is in part measured by how much exchange goes on. And as the reports that I've been finding say, and then I'll stop rambling here, is that 90% plus of all of the exchanging going on these exchanges, including in Bitcoin, are involving people moving their coin from one wallet to another. It's not that they're being used as currency. It's not like it's being invested into. It's just that they're moving it from one wallet to another for a variety of different reasons we can come back and talk about. But that creates this volume that people assume, means adoption and use, and therefore increases the value. So whenever we get, buy our $10 or $100 or $1,000 of Bitcoin, we're helping that economy grow. But that's not redistribution. That's not, and ultimately for me, political power, which is what we need. So.
And I think one of the interesting things that I've seen a lot of is comparisons to land, which we know real estate is another thing that folks really love to sort of peddle in the Black community as the method of liberation, right? Like if you get into real estate, you start flipping houses, you buy land, that's the way to freedom. But because of, especially in the case of Bitcoin, where you have this limited amount of coins, right? Just like you have a limited amount of land, they're like, okay, we got to get in now because before it gets all taken up. So Jared, talk to us a little bit about that part of it, how those comparisons play out in terms of land and what that means, and this multi-level marketing happening with crypto.
So I've heard that comparison, and the other comparison that is being made is that we are in 2022, we are to crypto where we were in 1990s vis-a-vis the internet. So that why would you be telling, so critics of my argument are saying, Jared, why would you be telling Black people not to invest in the internet in the early 1990s when if they did that, look where we would be today? And my argument is, look what the internet produced and look where we would be today. You would have a few people who have done very well, but at the end of the day, during the length of the time the internet has come to power or to come to rise, we've seen an exacerbation of wealth inequality. We've seen a higher degree of accumulation of wealth, particularly around the world. We've seen it, and everything else continues on, from everything from police brutality to war to mistreatment of women. I mean, all these things continue to, and in fact, we even covered a story recently where even in the digital metaverse, women are reporting being molested or abused, or, people
in the metaverse. Are you serious?
In the metaverse, yeah. Yeah, women are reporting that men gather, like they circle them and start, I guess digitally putting their hands on them, and doing all this other kind of stuff. So like, in other words, as history has shown, technology doesn't change relationships; it just exacerbates them. So that's always been the case. And with new technology comes greater degrees of consolidation of power and wealth. So that's what I'm saying. So yes, a few Black people who would have invested in or who might now invest in crypto or Bitcoin or whatever, or NFTs and blockchain, or people are buying land in Snoopverse. Somebody spent $500,000 to buy a digital mansion next to Snoop. If you get in, sure, a few people who get in early and get out appropriately will make money. Most others will lose money, and then the social relationships will continue to worsen. And that's why we see today so I would argue this. And then the land comparison is equally interesting in that, okay, let's follow that one as well. My argument is that we need political power, which would mean that it doesn't matter how wealth is created, because either you can control how wealth is defined, who gets to create it, how much or where it gets distributed. But that would be the point, that if you have political power, you could say, look, if money gets made, the people get a cut. So go ahead and make money. I mean, that's, so that would be, so, but then when it comes to land, so Kwame Ture used to somewhat jokingly say, Black people don't own any land or property, but we do have the numerical power, and poor people have the numerical power to assume the political power. So he said, let's all run for all the offices, get ourselves elected to all the offices, and then we'll raise the property taxes and live off the property taxes. And since we don't own any property, we'll live off, and he was being a little facetious, but I think he was trying to get us to understand that political power is what we want. And that's why he would ultimately always say, that's all I want. You can have everything else, just give me the power. It's like, you can have everything else. And that would be my point. So look at what happens now. Black people move into communities, buy land, buy property, and just by the fact of their Blackness, the property value plummets. So we could say the same thing ultimately could be the case with so-called blockchain investment. Now, people could say, well, on the one hand, we're anonymous and everything once we're in there. But how we have access to getting in there, or how we engage that space, has everything to do with who we are out here, number one. And then if we don't have the political power to redistribute the wealth that is created from whoever does buy blockchain land, then we're missing the point anyway, because to your point and to their point, it is finite. So if only a handful of people or only X amount of people can become owners anyway, my question is, I don't want to live in a world where we're fighting and competing with each other for it. I want to live in a world that says whoever gets it is going to create wealth for all of us anyway. So that's what I would say. So fine, you now own the land. We now have the political power that says we're going to run whatever the digital equivalent would be. We're going to run highways through that land that allows us to trade better. We're going to tax that land that raises revenues for us to do whatever we want to do for the people. We're going to say this land is only is valuable because we can use it for our businesses, while this land is not valuable to us because it cannot help us with our military or business interests, et cetera. In other words, the point would be not to operate the way the federal government operates today, but to have political power in such a way to operate in a good way, the way the federal government does work today. That at the end of the day, even private property can be organized or used if the federal government deems it necessary. If there is a political purpose for it, your private property can even go away. So that's the point I'm trying to get at, that ultimately really what I'm just trying to say is that whatever the investment opportunities there are or are not in crypto or anything else, I don't want us to be distracted from the fact that we need to have political power, and humanity needs the ability to say, we can't just be in a race against one another. And if I don't understand investing as well as you, that I should then suffer. Like, that's all I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So as I've listened to you answer the last two questions, I've had a whole light bulb moment about why an expert in media literacy would have a natural interest in cryptocurrency, because it makes so much sense now. This is not just about a new market, right? It's about having the savvy and the capacity to understand the nuance behind what's driving it. And one of the things that I was thinking about as you were just talking is when I read Bell Hooks for the first time, I remember what she talked about is how the creation of wealth does not require poverty, but gratuitous capitalism thrives off of having people who have less than you, because part of the worth of what you accumulate is knowing that other people don't have the capacity and the ability to accumulate at the same rate or the same amount. And I think part of what the media behind this crypto does is it pretends that gratuitous wealth is not what's driving these new markets, right? Like, it's no mistake that mining is the language used, because who makes all the money? Not the people who are mining, but the people who own the mines, right? And it's so interesting that that sort of literacy component of not only what this particular market is, but why we have these markets in the first place is the conversation that we're not having that we need to have. And it makes so much sense that somebody whose expertise is in teaching people to sort of interrogate the why and the how of how information is presented, right? And why information is presented the way it's presented would gravitate towards something like cryptocurrency that's making all of these promises to people. Because it's not just what they're saying, but it's who's saying it and why they're saying it. And that's the conversation we're not having. That's the conversation we're not having, because if you get rich and the purpose of your wealth is just to amplify the fact that other people can't have it or won't have it, then is that really what cryptocurrency is promising? Is the promise really being delivered if we just want you to feel special, right? If we just want you to feel good about yourself?
That's the sad part, Amber, because I was listening to when you were having your debate with the gentleman of crypto. The part that broke my heart is maybe you were 5 minutes into that conversation with him, and it became clear that their goal as Black capitalists wasn't liberation. And I think the whole point is that I don't even know how you debate them, because what you're trying to achieve is not the same ultimately. Like, they literally were like, everybody, you've got to just educate yourself on crypto. You've got to get in the game. You've got to be working in these spaces. And that way you collectively can make, you individually can make more money. And then Jared was trying to point out, well, yeah, that person can make more money, but they're still not making as much money as Brad, who's working in cryptocurrency, which was an idea that just went over their heads. But it's just like the folks who are latching onto this message, who are then peddling it back, are not the same folks who are interested in liberation. And it's like, that capitalist message is never going to lead us to the place where we want to go.
Yeah. So which is why if you put the adjective in front of capitalism, it's all the same trash. Black, white, brown, blue, purple. It's all the same trash.
No, you both really have helped me refocus here, which is often a problem I have. So that was my point from the beginning, that, that the messaging in all of this is exactly what I was seeing and had studied in my, research on buying power. The messaging is a Black capitalist message, which, again, to your point, Amber, is that concoction again to say, well, if it's Black first, then it must be good. That was created as a message, as psychological warfare, as propaganda. Yeah. So that is so. What led to the debate with the gentleman of crypto was that when I read because I wanted to read more. I had my biased perspective. My starting point, obviously, but I wanted to see what the other side was arguing. So particularly within the Black space. So I started reading these books that were coming out, several of them at this point now, and many more articles specific to just, and many, many more in general at this point, but specific to the Black community. And one of the gentlemen of crypto, Isaiah Jackson, had written Bitcoin for Black America. And when I read that book, it became even more clear that this is the point. This is the messaging. He is making a very Black capitalist, and really even more sadly, I think, a white libertarian argument that underneath everything is really this: get rid of the banks, get rid of the government, let real, like you said, even in the debate, they said, well, we don't even have real capitalism. Like if we had real capitalism, it was almost a suggestion right. And which is itself a misnomer, because how did the markets become free? Through military conquest and the destruction of other of opposing markets. I mean, so it's like, and anyway, it's so anyway, the reason, because I agree with you, Erika, that ultimately there's no reason for us to have a debate, certainly that's supposed to be about crypto, because the underlying issues are what are at play here. I'm arguing they're coming from a Black capitalist or white libertarian perspective, which is, again, no government. We just get straight business and we can interact, and it's a level playing field. And once the playing field's level, we can all get rich, and then capitalism is great. And I'm saying we need something else. You could describe it as socialism. We could describe it as communism. We could describe it as something else. I don't really even necessarily, but something that I just at least simplify as redistributive. Something that where the wealth we are all creating gets spread around. And that's really, so at that level, that's where, and as Jackson said at the end of the, where we wrapped up with, and I agreed with him, is where he said, we could just keep going in circles, because he kept, basically saying we can learn to do this. And even as they said, if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And that's just how it is. And I'm saying, well, I don't think we should be in a position where, for instance, the biggest argument against me that I've heard in the few times it's been directed at me personally is that I just don't understand investing, or I don't understand the technology involved in blockchain, or I'm just a hater, which is on some levels true. But I'm saying we shouldn't have to have this extensive knowledge of investments and technology for our community to be better off. So the question is that I keep coming to is I definitely am not an expert on the technology and on investing, et cetera, and so forth. But I am, I think, well studied enough to raise questions around what happens on the other end of all of that, which is the poverty, the inequality, the violence, the hostility, the da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's where I don't see any change in this. And the closer I've looked at their arguments and read their literature, the less I'm seeing that's supposed to satisfy my own arguments. So that's where we end up, Erika, to your point. We just don't agree. Like you all are, like it's like what Dr. King said to Andy Young. Andy, you are a capitalist and I'm not. That's it.
Yeah.
Let's
and
move
I think
on.
I think there is a component of liberation that requires a collective investment in humanity that some people just simply do not want to acknowledge. Like, crabs in a barrel are not liberated if they get out and the barrel continues to exist. They are escapees. They are not liberated, right? They escaped, but the barrel is still there. And so I think the part of it that the messaging likes to sort of obscure is that money and liberation are not synonymous. Right. So I think for a lot of Black capitalists, there is this assumption that the increase in money also inherently comes with an increase in liberation. But that just that's escapism. That's not liberation. Liberation is a deconstruction of the system, not your ability to escape from it because you have tangible things in your hand that other people do not. And I think that's where the message really gets obscured, that you are not liberated because you escaped.
And I'm almost convinced now that they just don't want liberation. I think they
Correct.
just want capitalism. Like they want the fruits of capitalism.
They want some people to be able to escape so they can feel special and look at other people who are still enchained and enslaved by the system, to look at them and be like, look how much better I am than you. Look how much better. I mean, and that is the truth people don't want to tell, that American capitalism feeds the part of you that wants to be better than somebody else. You don't want everybody to have the same thing as you.
Yep. That's totally it. And the pandemic has shown us that people do not have a community mindset. Like, if it's done anything, it has shown us that. So absolutely. So now we're going to do something that we've never done before. We are going to, Jared, we're going to read some excerpts from some articles. It's going to be rapid fire, not really rapid fire, but you know what I'm saying. And we're just going to get your take on a bunch of stuff that we're going to read. So, Amber, I think I'm going to kick it off.
Okay.
Oh, but before we do that, can I make a confession?
Go ahead.
So, y'all, I get caught up like everybody else, right? I'm susceptible to propaganda and advertising and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not going to lie. So I was just sitting around one day, and I noticed on Venmo, they're like, oh, you can buy Bitcoin on Venmo now, right? And I'm like, well, like, why not? You know, I'll just do that. So this is the kind of fool I am, getting caught up. I was like, I'm going to just buy $1,000 of Bitcoin, right? Let me throw my money in the ring and, and at first every now and again I would look at it and I was like, ooh, look at me. Like, I'm up 10, 15%. Like, that was like the first couple of weeks. Then it wasn't like that. Then I was down like 40%. Right now I'm down like 25, 30% from when I bought it. But it just makes me think about how we talk about putting our money into this investment. And if I really needed the money and I took it out now, I'm down like 30%, right? So I'm just out of that. Now, the good part for me, just me, is that I don't need it. But if I needed it, that should just not... It's just not a good individual investment if you're using it in a traditional way and you're not just trying to hold it. But if you're trying to invest it or you need your money for some other emergency that happens, like, I would be out of luck. So am I the only fool on here that actually bought some Bitcoin?
Yeah, I have not. But,
wow.
But now,
Thanks,
I will
Jared.
tell you this. No, I almost did. There's 2 times I've almost done it. One, because I wanted to see what the Hill Harper Black Wall Street wallet looked like from the inside.
The user experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, for the experience of that. But I don't even have. I mean, I don't even, definitely could not have done 1,000. But I don't have. I just was like, I don't have. I just didn't have, I didn't feel like I wanted to spend that on this. So that was, the other time was I wanted to surprise my wife by turning one of her artworks into an NFT, which is another extension of this conversation that we didn't get into. But what I realized, because I wanted to do it just, again, for similar, as a gift, but also as a similar, like, let me show what this NFT stuff really is. But that one, sure. I was like, I really can't do it because it would have cost at least, around $200, and then buying Ethereum in $200 in Ethereum to get, which is what you have to do to get the NFT onto the blockchain,
right? Which
then just gives you a digital key. What you're really buying is a digital password to what exists on the blockchain, to which they're housing on the this picture, which would have been housed on the blockchain. But I was like, $200. I don't know. I just didn't feel like doing it for this, for that. And that's what I'm saying. Like anyway. And then unless somebody much more wealthy was to buy that picture, it's a loss. It's just a digital picture of the painting she's actually already painted that hangs on the wall.
Right.
So so no, I didn't do it, but but to your point though, so this is my issue. Look, I may feel whatever I feel about investing in capitalism, et cetera, and so forth. People doing their own private whatever, you buying the stock you have, the wealth, whatever everybody does as an individual is one thing. It's going publicly and then telling other people, this is our pathway. this is what you need to do. And then worse is when they say, buy my course so I can teach you how to do this. That's where I'm like, you know.
See, Brokers University is free. You see that?
Yes.
Y'all see how Brokers University is free?
Yes.
Now, I didn't want to be too petty, but I do think it's appropriate in this conversation to bring up, at least here, that it was pointed out to me that the classes that you can buy from the Gentlemen of Crypto to take their courses, you cannot pay for in cryptocurrency. Someone made it.
Are you serious?
They require US whole ass dollars. Every crypto course I have ever tried to be sold requires whole ass United States dollars.
Going through the Visa and MasterCard networks. Y'all need to stop.
Yes. That's yeah.
So that's one thing, and then of course, so that was funny to me. But of course, the opposite, the regular process is also true. I would still have to have a certain amount of U.S. dollars to invest to buy the Bitcoin that I would then use to pay in Bitcoin for their service. But that gets into a whole other level, a whole other area, at least, of the conversation around, well, when does Bitcoin not only become something you can use to buy something, but when is it something that other items are priced in? So, you know, and that's a whole other thing that the Bitcoin supporters are waiting for. And to the point you raised just a minute ago, Erika, with your own example, if you can afford to put in money and ride the ups and downs and wait for the moment that at least the supporters of crypto say is going to happen eventually, where Bitcoin does replace the US dollar and then become the dominant currency, in which case what you own becomes really valuable. If you can do that, then I suppose that's fine, and good luck and congratulations. But that's why in our debate, I said to them, even if you all win and Bitcoin reaches that level of adoption, all that's going to mean is that actually what's being reported now, worse levels of inequality would take effect, because fewer people have more Bitcoin than have US dollars. So the concentration of wealth and that the power that comes with that would only be more intense and magnified if Bitcoin reaches the level that Bitcoin supporters want it to reach. So either way, somebody like me isn't going to be satisfied. So that's why I'm saying, whether those people are black, white, brown, or otherwise, people like me are still going to be saying, but only 10 of you or whatever, relatively speaking, have all of it. So like, how is that a community uplift unless we just trust, as I think you saw we can't, that you all who become super rich are going to look out for us?
Yeah. They are not on the lookout, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Okay, I don't even know some of these things, Amber, we already talked about. I'm going to see.
My article is one of them.
Okay, I'm going to just go through the stats real fast, and then, Jared, we're going to talk about having you come back on and talk about NFTs. But anyway, that's another thing for another day.
Okay.
So I have an article, Why Black Investors Seemingly Prefer Cryptocurrencies Over Traditional Stocks, by Corey Hale. And it says, the quote is, in fact, Black people hold just 3.8% of $116 trillion in wealth in the U.S., according to data from the Federal Reserve. Culture Banks reported that data shows that while fewer Black Americans invest in stocks than white people, they are actually more receptive to holding cryptocurrencies. A recent Harris Poll survey found that in the United States, 30% of Black and 27% of Hispanic investors own cryptocurrencies, compared with just 17% of white investors. So it's like you were saying before, Jared, this Amber, the tummy tea, it's got a stronghold on the people that it doesn't have on white Americans, apparently.
Detox.
Detox from the crypto. Yes.
Well, I mean, part of it is all that promotional money. And so there was a news story in Advertising Age that said overall the Super Bowl is going to see ads from crypto companies like we once saw from .com companies 20 years ago. And they noted the difference. They noted that comparison and then said, will crypto go in the same direction as those .coms, which many of which bust and bubbled out and were taken over. So so I thought that was an interesting comparison, that crypto, all this advertising is coming. And then the advertising that is funneled toward Black and brown people, like with Spike Lee, with Tory Lanez, the rapper, with Jim Jones, the rapper, with Kim Kardashian, all these people promoting it in their spaces. It comes with that message of this will free you from traditional bondage. And that's why, and then to the other point I was making, Black people have less to invest, have a more narrow portfolio. White people have their money spread out all over the place and don't see this as something that they need to get into to save themselves. So, of course, they're not going to be invested as much. Then we could also argue, and maybe should argue, that they're not investing as much because many of them know this is not anything more than a bubble. So,
yeah. Well, I also just want to say that is no shame in saying, I don't know. I think one of the ways that we, sort of pressure people into this stuff is we try to shame people for what they don't know. And we make people feel financially unsophisticated or illiterate, or like there's a FOMO that we attach to this stuff. And one of the reasons why I've never invested in crypto is because I feel like there's a privilege I enjoy to know that I'm not stupid because I say, I don't understand that. I don't get it. And I'm not going to put my money in nothing that I can't explain to you in a sentence or two. But for a lot of people, there is a deep insecurity in saying that because they are made to feel like they're less than already because they don't have it. And then to turn around and say, well, I don't understand it. And the way we sort of weaponize education and knowledge and information to pressure people to make decisions that are not in their best interest is wild to me. Because I'm not ever. That's why I don't gamble, because I don't get it. I don't get it. And if I don't get it, I can't spend my money on it because I'm a real sore loser. And
when I was a teenager, I lost, I think, $175 in craps in like 3 minutes and was like, that's it. I'm
out the game.
That's all I needed. That's it. I've never gone back. I was like, I can't. That's too much, too fast for me.
Yep.
So, and to your point, Amber, I think I don't think investing is there's a lot of issues I might have with investing and, of course, with capitalism. But all honest investors have said exactly what you just said. If you can't explain it in 2 sentences to an 8th grader or whatever, or an 8-year-old or whatever, then you shouldn't be investing. Now, so what has happened with the crypto space, and this is something I have learned, is that in terms of the messaging, that people have, knowing that is true, people have been given these talking points so that they do sound like they know what they're talking about and can convince themselves that it's safe. So they hear the talking points of encryption, of sovereignty, of no banks, of peer-to-peer encrypted transaction, or Hill Harper keeps using that line, ascending value asset class. So you could keep, so you walk into a room of just regular, and you say ascending value asset class. You have to put your money in an ascending value asset class. And every time you spend $1, you keep your money in dollars, you are paying for your own slavery. When you have these sort of talking points, it sounds really good. So people then say, I now get it. And then they go sign up and they put in their $100 or whatever they can put in. And then I think everybody's pretty clear what happens. And if and then the other messaging, Erika, to your point of a moment ago, is that if you pay attention, now that I get everything in the algorithm coming to me on Twitter and other social media spaces, all the catchphrases are, it'll say buy the dip. So if the price starts to plummet rather, instead of, people don't get scared. This is where the diamond hands, and that's what they're called, the diamond hands, the people who are not punks, like what do they call them? It's the diamond hands versus the
Illuminati. Is that what you're talking about?
No. It's not the Illuminati like that. But diamond hands means people who are strong enough to withstand the ups and downs and don't get punked out.
Yes.
And then the opposite of the diamond hands are the people who see the price drop and get scared and sell. So the new language becomes buy the dip, and then they say things like, if you walked by and saw this tremendous property being sold at half price, wouldn't you buy it? So as if to say, if Bitcoin drops by 50% in a day, don't see that as a negative. You should see that as the chance to get something really good at half price. And I'm saying, well, you could see it that way, but you could also see it as a sign that it's headed to zero This is not a sound investment. But no. So they just call you, scary and a punk and this, that, and a third. And then, the Matt Damon commercial, if you've seen that one, right, where he comes in and he's basically saying all the people who've ruled the world have been fearless and all this other kind of stuff. So buy your crypto now. I mean, it's like, it's really, so all of it is just like all the traditional advertising stuff that those of us in this field would have learned. It's not selling to logic. It's selling men manhood. It's selling,
Yes.
women sovereignty and independence from the patriarchy. It's selling poor people freedom from the rich. It's selling black people freedom from the man. So that's the messaging. And at the end of the day, Naked Capitalism has done, their blog has done some great work on this, but to show the details. But the consolidation is all there. A handful of wallets have a bulk of the Bitcoin. A handful of miners are doing all the mining. There's only, 2 or 3 exchanges that are making a bulk of all the money off of the exchange, all the trades that are happening. So all of this is so as I'm looking at it, I'm like, where's the revolution in that?
Right.
It ain't
I'm
here.
just going to give y'all some free legal advice, okay? Your favorite ratchet lawyer. I want you to listen to me. Don't be out here in these
Don't be
streets.
giving these people no legal advice, girl.
No. I want to give the game away. I don't even want your money. Don't be out here in these streets opening the mouth that the good Lord gave you, talking about you are a sovereign citizen and you don't have to pay taxes on money you earn in the crypto universe. I'm telling you, clank, you gonna end up in the pen, okay? If you live here in these United States, you're going to have to run his cut of your money, okay? You're not no sovereign nothing. The crypto universe is not exempt from taxable income. If you slang dope, you got to pay taxes on it, okay? So I just want y'all to know, because it's almost tax season. Don't be out here going around telling people that because you done earned your money in the crypto universe that you a sovereign citizen and you ain't got to pay no taxes on it. Because the devil is a lie and orange is still the new black. You will end up in the pen, okay? So if you gonna crypto, pay your taxes because you still not no sovereign citizen, okay? Your mama named you Clay and Unc gonna call you Clay, okay? Okay.
Did you see how I gave you the clapping, Amber?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
No, that was great. Just like I've been saying, this claim that black capitalism is anything other than white libertarianism, it's similar with the sovereignty thing. There are segments of the black community that claim this is the highest stage of black freedom, and that's really a very white conservative ideology. Those sovereigntists are those lunatic white folks that are out here gunning down police officers in their homes and stuff like that. That's who that is. So careful if that's whose team you want to be on,
And I should have known better to try to have rapid fire with Jared on the line. Like,
my bad.
Wasn't nothing going to be rapid fire. But I'm going to read this last thing, though, because I found it interesting. So there was an article in the New York Times from Tracy McMillan Cottom, and it's called Wealth Inequality Drives the Appeal of Crypto. And one of the quotes from the article, the pull of any speculative bubble is based in a fact of the world. Somebody somewhere is making a lot of money, and you're not one of them. And for those of us who aren't among the extremely wealthy, the idea that we can join them is a seductive one that has become a cultural phenomenon. And in an atmosphere of economic precarity and wealth inequality, that pull is supercharged. So it also talks about how people being isolated through the pandemic, all these things are sort of coming in and like really pulling people in, fools like me, right? Who are like, why not? And, losing your shirt.
They said that Brian Armstrong, who runs Coinbase, the second largest exchange in the world, made $550 million just during the pandemic because of exactly what you're talking about. And not far from me to praise the New York Times, but when they're right on this one, that all this poverty and inequality, being stuck at home, and all this messaging promising some change. If I just invest some change, that'll do it.
Yeah. Erika, when you turn your $1,000 into, millions of dollars, don't start acting brand new. Don't forget where you came from. Don't be telling us to pull ourselves up from the bootstrap.
I'm already uppity.
You are now. Come on, you ain't never lied. You ain't never lied.
So ain't nothing gonna change.
Yeah,
okay?
don't get on the TV telling us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
I would never.
She's going to say, I told you back in February of 2022 that I bought $1,000 and you should have done the same thing. That's what she's going to say.
All it takes is $1,000 and I'm going to give you the detox tea for free. Okay.
Exactly. So, Jared, as always, thank you for coming on to help us with Brokish University. And y'all heard him promise that he was going to come back and talk about NFTs next. So we're going to leave the door open. But in a totally different way. Not in that way, though. Look, don't have your wife calling me. I didn't mean that.
I don't have your husbands chasing me down either. I got no crew and no army. Yes, so don't worry about that. But no. In all sincerity, I really appreciate what you all do. I've been a big fan since. Big shout out to Diedrich Muhammad put me in touch. Whenever that was, and I think what you all do is of incredible service. So thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, and I can't wait to come back.
Thanks. And where can the people find you out here in this world?
At I Mix What I Like, imixwhatilike.org, blackpowermedia.org. That's where I'm at.
Perfect.
In these digital streets.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Is it going? All right. Woo! Jared, thank you. Amber, give the brokers the homework for the show.
So Dr. Ball already gave y'all part of the homework. You need to go and subscribe to Black Power Media if you have not already. But now Erika has inspired the other part of the homework. I want to hear y'all's crypto testimonies too, okay? Because what God has done for others, he can do for you. So we going to get in the comments on the Brokish Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And I want y'all to give us y'all's crypto testimonies. Are y'all down in the whatever they call it with Erika, or y'all up and up? Okay. So we're going to talk about it. And also finally, don't just subscribe to Black Power Media, because y'all know that in order for us to have some Black Power, we have to have some money. And, me and Erika, we wish-washy. We ain't started our Patreon, but Black Power Media does have a Patreon, and they're out here in these streets doing righteous work to try to help and inform our people. So we'll take your Bitcoin, your quarter coin, your dollars, okay? And because I'm in a coming to America mood, we are grateful for the kind of money that jingles, but we would rather have the kind that folds, okay? Okay? So, yes. So all that's right. Your homework.
Thank you for the homework, Amber. And again, thank you, Jared, for joining us. So, brokers, we have to have a real conversation about what the goal really is. Many of us seem to think that chasing and getting the bag is the way to freedom. And at Brokish, we're interested in liberation. And that can't come by means of running through and over other Black people to make money for yourself and for your family. Liberation is a collective effort. So the means to achieve it have to come from us all thriving. I know the allure of a get-rich-quick scheme and fortune can distract us from the goal. That's why we have to hold each other accountable when folks take their eyes off the prize. We've said it before, and we're probably going to say it 1,000 times more. Capitalism will kill you before it saves you. Don't devote your life to your captor. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with you on the next episode of Brokish.